In this video, I'm going to debunk claims that fire damage to cars at the Nova Festival in Israel are due to Apache helicopters and missiles from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. So this is the massacre at the music festival on October 7th, which is one of the main atrocities alleged to have occurred during the attack. Now, before I go into this, first of all, I'm going to say this is fire damage here. It looks exactly like the fire damage I saw many years ago when my apartment complex was firebombed. You can find examples of this type of thing. Here is a parking lot fire that occurred at a Dolphins game a couple of years ago, September 2022. Let me show the article briefly. Devastating fire from tailgater grill wipes out cars at Dolphins game, Monday, 12 September 2022. I'm going to show an even more dramatic example of this. This is a parking lot at a music festival in Portugal in 2016, in which reportedly 422 cars were destroyed by fire. Okay, let me actually read this. This happened yesterday on the parking lot of the festival Andacanas and Dancas. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing it, I'm sure, badly. An international festival in Portugal for the promotion of popular music and dance. Sounds pretty familiar. The fire started in one of the parked cars and propagated quickly due to the summer high temperatures and very close proximity the cars were parked. It was the worst accident of this type in Portugal history. 422 cars were completely destroyed. There are no fatalities or serious injuries, although some people had to be assisted on site. Okay, so this is something that happens. Cars are full of gasoline. Gasoline is a very dangerous, inflammable material. Now, cars are well designed, so we don't see these kind of fires too often. And in most cases, when they start, they're in areas with fire departments and other people are able to intervene and prevent the fires from producing this level of damage. It does happen. And I saw it happen when my apartment complex was firebombed. There was an attack on the manager. They threw a rock through his window with a note that said, "Get out or we'll do this again." They set fire to the cars in the carport, and this is exactly what they look like, what you see here and what you see in images like this. Okay, so this is supposedly various cars burned. You can see from fire at the Nova Festival. This doesn't seem to have audio, so I don't know what RT said here, whether they promoted this idea that the festival was attacked by Apache helicopters, and this is taken as evidence that all the deaths were not due to the Hamas fighters, but due to the IDF massacring its own people using Apache helicopters. Here you can see this is trending right now. This is on Twitter/X, and this has been propagated substantially the last few days on the internet. I think it's become more and more obvious that a lot of people were killed at this festival, as well as there were families in kibbutzes and homes that were burned alive, it appears. So it's becoming harder and harder to claim that the death claims of women and children and civilians are false. So we're now seeing a wave of propaganda saying that Israel did it itself, like with these helicopters, and massacred their own people. Now, let me make the qualification that today we have very advanced CGI, computer-generated imagery, and also so-called practical effects, physical effects with makeup and so forth. Between the two of them, you can produce extremely realistic and probably undetectable imagery. There's dramatic examples of this in the Rogue One Star Wars movie from a few years ago, where deceased actors like Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing, and actually some less well-known characters are brought back from the dead as they were in the original 1977 movie, and it's very convincing. And of course, this technology is, in some form, has been around for at least 30 years. In the early 1990s, you had Forrest Gump, where Forrest Gump is actually put in historical footage interacting with Lyndon Johnson and other historical figures. And actually, at that time, there were a number of advertisements where deceased famous movie actors like Humphrey Bogart and Marilyn Monroe were put alive into advertisements. And it sort of, I don't know if the fad ended or if there was pressure not to show off the technology too much, because then people would start to doubt official, supposedly factual news videos and so forth. So it's very hard with existing technology to be sure when you see videos like this. This could all be CGI. Now, I don't think it is. These look exactly like fire damage that you can see, um, for example, in this footage of the Portugal Music Festival. Again, I saw this right up in personal. You know, these cars were completely destroyed. Nobody was using missiles. Nobody was using, they just threw probably a Molotov cocktail or something like that, just some gasoline. Gasoline has an enormous amount of energy in it, and the fires can spread very rapidly. You know, we have fire departments and other mechanisms to prevent this from happening very often, which is impressive, but it does happen. And of course, the context in Israel is they're in the Negev desert in the middle of the day. It's hot. It's probably extremely hot there. It could be over 120 degrees. I don't know what the exact temperature was. I've been to Phoenix area, and you know, deserts can get extremely, extremely hot, and it's actually very dangerous. You can't leave your family members, your baby, your pets in the car for very long, or they'll be literally roasted. So again, what you're seeing here is fire damage from burning cars, and some of the videos. This is not, in fact, very little of this looks anything like what you would see with a missile. If a missile hits, it's got a huge explosive charge. It would blow open a crater, which is not what you see in most of these videos. Um, so again, this is an example. This is another one of these videos that's posted. You can see that this looks like fire damage. Um, you know, this is no airstrike. They probably were just firing bullets and set fire to the gasoline, or they threw some grenades or Molotov cocktails, which are a common weapon in sort of irregular conflict, etc., and they started burning the cars. Again, this is in a desert. It's very hot. It's very dry, and some of the cars are parked close together, or they've gotten pushed together while fleeing, or something like that. So again, none of this looks like it requires Apache helicopters or any of this kind of stuff. It's the kind of thing that happens in parking lot fires like this one. So the lesson to take away from this, which is, I know from personal experience, hard to do, when you see stuff like these videos flying by you, particularly that confirm your preconceived ideas, you do need to really dig into them and check what actually is going on, because you know, they can be grossly incorrect. And yet people that are, you know, I don't know why people would promote this stuff without checking it, but nonetheless, in the heat of the moment, people post and repost these kind of videos and tweets and so forth. And usually what's going on is these things are designed to produce an emotional reaction, anger and outrage. And then you're so angry that one, you accept it, and two, you post it to somebody else and it spreads, this kind of viral process, and then you're committed because you publicly said, hey, I think this is Apache helicopters. It almost certainly isn't. So I'm going to repeat my message that unfortunately governments lie frequently, whether it's Israel or Hamas or Russia. This is supposedly RT video from their RT entity, which is basically the Russian government, the U.S. government. And today we do have the technology. This could all literally be fake footage. I mean, this could be CGI footage like in Rogue One or Forrest Gump or something like that. So obviously this is a real problem in evaluating what's happening halfway around the world. I'm an American, so I'm in, you know, the Silicon Valley near San Francisco. You know, Mountain View is where Google is located. I have no way of knowing if this is real, but it looks like what I've seen with my own eyes, not mediated by video, pictures of I mean, not pictures. Actually, I was standing just a few feet from the cars that were burned down in a carport in our apartment complex. This is many years ago. There were a series of these fires that appeared to have been some sort of arson, maybe a protection racket here in Mountain View. And when they burn these things, this is the kind of thing that's left over after the fire, right? Now, I don't have experience with missiles, but I would say that you would expect to see craters, the cars literally blown apart if they got hit by the missile. I mean, the missiles have like hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of high explosives in them. So they will likely leave craters, or the cars will be just totally blown apart, not what you see here. This is fire damage for the most part. Again, the video could be totally fake. So in conclusion, it's very, very likely that what you're seeing here is fire damage. again, from something that's been seen all over the world for decades, such as this music festival in Portugal in 2016. This concludes this video presentation. If you like this video, please click like. Please click subscribe and the notification bell if you would like to receive more content from us. You can avoid internet censorship by subscribing directly to our RSS news feed. Please consider sharing the link by email and on your website or blog, in addition to liking, upvoting, or sharing on increasingly censored, advertising beholden, big company social media. We have encountered such censorship. Mathematical software is developing algorithms and software to automate data analysis, reducing the risks of costly errors and increasing the predictive power of the results. You can support our work financially by subscribing on our Patreon page, https://www.patreon.com/mathsoft, or scanning the QR code in the lower right corner.